Joining us now on Six News, Peter George. He is an independent candidate for the seat of Franklin that's currently held by Labor in Tasmania. Really nice to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me, Leo. It's a pleasure.
So we'll start off with the basic question. Why'd you put your hand up for this candidacy?
Because Franklin has been one of those electorates that have been totally ignored by both of the big parties, the old parties, for so long. 18 years in the hands of Labor. It was always considered to be a safe seat. Franklin just tends to get totally overlooked when it comes to Tasmania by both of the old parties, mostly because they're busy fighting in Lyons, in Bass, and in Bratton, three of the five electorates in Tasmania that are considered to be winnable by both parties. So we have been ignored for a very long time.
And as you say, there might be some level of big parties ignoring you, but obviously they have been cemented, with the exception of Clark, of course, in Tasmanian electorates for some time. How confident you are that in Franklin you'd actually be able to break through that? Because it would be very significant, especially considering, of course, this is a first-time candidacy. You're not building off some 2022 run as others have.
Sure. Look, it's important to realise that in Tasmania, in the last state election about 12 months ago, neither of the old parties was able to form a majority government. The balance of power is held by independents and the Greens. There is a zeitgeist, and I think we have just happened to catch it, that neither party is serving the electorate or serving Tasmania, or frankly, even serving the nation very well. I keep saying to people, if you're happy with the way things are going in Tasmania, then stick with the way you've always voted. And I've yet to come across anyone who's very happy about the way things are going. So sure, it's a big issue, a big task to take on a minister for primary industry, fisheries, and forestry. But I'm no political neophyte. I've never been a candidate before, but I've covered politics. I understand politics. I was there on the steps of Parliament House as a federal political reporter when Whitlam was sacked. I've seen what it is to go through the mill on the outside. Now I'm ready, and I've reached an age where I'm ready to take it on the inside.
Well, there you just said it. You've been observing Canberra politics in general for quite some time, and in that time, it has been very rare in Australian history for there to be a hung parliament. We know the chances of it are very much probable at this election. By no means a guarantee, but it arguably as more likely than it ever has been since the 2010 election. Assuming you're elected, and that's a big assumption, of course, how would you decide who to back? I'm guessing you're not kind of locked into one side or the other at the moment.
Well, first of all, let me say it's not a hung parliament. It's a democratic parliament, or so it would be a minority government. We tend to use that term hung parliament, not recognizing the fact that in Europe, one of the issues, or one of the things that has kept Europe from going back to war in the last 70 years or so, is the fact that very few governments ever have a minority. And in fact, in Scandinavian countries, they basically never do. And they are amongst the happiest countries and most stable countries in the world. As far as what I would do, I am not prepared to make a decision now overtly about whether I would give supply and confidence to one party or another, other than to say, if you look at the policies that I stand for, I am a progressive. I believe in progressive policies. The Liberal Party, every time it seems to open its mouth, makes itself less and less attractive as a minority government. So I will keep my options open. I will vote on issue by issue. But if it looks necessary to give a limited guarantee of supply and confidence, I know that I would be at this stage of the game more likely to give that to a Labor government or to a Labor Party. But I will keep my options open. Why not? That's part of the duty of an independent.
Now, you mentioned fisheries there, and it's something that you've been talking about for a while, has been a really significant issue that we've seen pop up, which is the salmon industry in the area. I'll kind of let you go off that. Just explain where you're coming from in terms of your positions, because I know you've been very critical of the industry.
My community in the deep south of Tasmania, in the Huon Valley, asked me to run an organization called Neighbours of Fish Farming about 12 years ago. And I've been the president of that for a long time until I stepped down. We tried very hard. We called ourselves Neighbours of Fish Farming because we thought that we could actually speak as good neighbours to the salmon industry over issues such as lights, noise, debris, and algal slime growing up on our beaches. We were treated with utter contempt by the industry. And it continues to treat us with contempt, particularly now that it's entirely owned by foreign multinationals that don't pay tax here, but are nevertheless destroying our waterways, destroying our marine life, and destroying the very thing that makes our island so wonderful, which of course is our waterways. So I am an avowed opponent of the multinationals who are causing such a terrible destruction on our waterways. There are ways of getting out. Around about $4 to $5 billion around the world has been invested in land-based fish farming. That's a possible way to go. That would be sustainable. But while they're in our waterways, while they are threatening a 60-million-year-old animal in Macquarie Harbour, the Maugean skate, with extinction, while they're expanding into our wonderful waterways here in the south, around Bruny Island, the Dontracastro Channel, some of the most beautiful waterways in the world, I will fight them tooth and nail.
Obviously, you can be a vocal opponent of it. You have been. We've seen obviously, before you're in Parliament, if you're in Parliament, those laws that were passed with the Labor and Coalition support in relation to allowing the industry to continue its operations as it is. You would be one lone voice not associated with the party if elected as the member for Franklin. Do you think you'd actually be able to have an influence that significantly, changes legislation? Because as I'm sure you know, right, there's one thing being a vocal opponent, there's another thing actually stopping something or changing something.
We have a great history in Tasmania for fighting against destructive industries like the hydro, like wood chipping, like the paper mill, like so many things. The answer is absolutely yes. Crossbenchers have a great deal of influence and a great deal of power. First of all, there will be a larger crossbench. Secondly, I believe that the majority of that crossbench will, like me, understand that Tasmania cannot abide a salmon industry of this nature. And I would work with the crossbench on that. That would be something where I would expect to get a great deal of support, particularly from Andrew Wilkie, who is a long-term independent member for Clark in Tasmania. So the answer is yes. The other thing about being an independent is Senator Brian Harradine, back in another era, was actually held the balance of power singularly in the Senate. And he was a Tasmanian, and he would never do any deal with a government unless there was advantage in it for Tasmania. There are so many, 72% of Tasmanians want this industry out of our vulnerable, shallow waterways. There is no way in the world that this industry is going to be, one, able to stand up against the increasing pressure of individual Tasmanians. But secondly, this industry will be gone in 5-7 years anyway, because Atlantic salmon are from the cold Atlantic waters of the northern hemisphere. The waters down here are warming 4 times faster than anywhere else on Earth, or at least an average on Earth. The pollution, the destruction, the disease breakouts, and so on. This industry is multinational. Within 5 to 7 years, it will pack up, it will walk away, it'll take its profits with it, it won't have paid tax, and the workers that it claims to represent and claims to care about and the communities will be left behind. That is an inevitability.
Just finally, in terms of the campaign, we're entering into the final week. How have you been feeling about, volunteer local support that you've gotten when out and about campaigning? And then also, can you just touch on something that I did see only recently, which was that you've been targeted with some vandalism in relation to your election signage?
Look, in 14 weeks, 567 people have signed up as volunteers with our campaign, which is an extraordinary number. Donations have rolled in from $10 to $20 to $100. The treasurer pointed out to me that someone had donated $3,000. So I wrote to them, a couple, and said, how incredibly generous. Thank you very much. They wrote back and said, you don't need to thank us. We need to thank you for standing up for Tasmania. There's been just so much support. This is actually, it started off as a sort of stand on your hind legs and howl at the moon, really. I didn't expect it to go anywhere. My wife and I put in $20,000 and thought we can afford that. I didn't expect it to go far, but since then, the support has been extraordinary. I do think we've put a zeitgeist, and I actually do believe that there is a pathway to success. Andrew Wilkie has done the sums. He thinks there's a pathway to success. The fact that the foreign minister Penny Wong was brought down here to launch officially a campaign, that's never been done before. The fact that the minister against whom I'm standing is the agriculture minister. The fact that she hasn't left Tasmania for the whole of the campaign, not even to go to Queensland where the floods have wiped out cattle farms and so on, I think is a very good indicator that this can be a successful campaign. But whatever happens, it's a success because no one is going to forget this campaign, and no one around Australia is going to forget that this campaign is actually taking on the multinational fish farms.
No, we'll be looking forward to covering it on election night. Peter George, best of luck. Really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Leo. It's very good of you.